Jose Portasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Realonda. That's a long name, right? Who is he? Do we really know everything about him? Let's find out. In June 19, 1861, Jose Portasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Realonda was born in Calamba, Laguna Province, and he was baptized in a Catholic church by Reverend Father Rufino Collantes and his godfather Pedro Casana.
Jose Rizal was the seventh of the 11 children who had one brother and 9 sisters. Both his parents, Francisco Mercado Rizal and Teodoro Alonso Yolanda, were educated and to belong to distinguished family. They were leaseholders of hacienda and accompanying rice farm by the Dominicans. From the early age, Rizal shows freakish intellect. As a child, Rizal spent a lot of time in nature making careful observation that sparked his greatness. The first teacher of Rizal was his mother, who was a remarkable woman and a good character and fine culture. He learned alphabets and prayers at the age of 3 and could write in poetry at the age of 5. She taught him values which she carried until later in his life. When he was 4 years old, his sister Concepcion Rizal died at the age of 3. It was on this occasion that Rizal remembered having shed real tears of her first time.
Rizal had first early education to study at Justiniano Aquino Cross at Binyan before he was sent to Manila. As his father requested, he took the entrance examination in Colegio de San Jose de Letran, but a Dominican friar asked him to transfer to another school due to his tragical and bold question. When Jose Rizal reached the age of 11 years old, he enrolled in the Ateneo de Manila. He obtained the highest grades in all subjects, such as philosophy, physics, biology, chemistry, languages, and natural history, and graduated as one of the 9 students in his class declared as outstanding students.
He enrolled in a course of medicine in Universidad Central de Madrid in Spain. In June 1883, he traveled in France to observe how medicine was being practiced. After 3 months, he returned to Madrid and thought about publishing a book that exposed the colonial relationship of Spain and Philippines. This idea was released in March 1887 with the publication of novel Noli Me Tangere in Germany. Rizal was actively involved in the propaganda movement composed of Filipinos in Spain who sought to direct the attention of Spaniards to the Spanish colony and the Philippines.
After 5 years of his memorable sojourn in Europe, Rizal returned to the Philippines. However, Rizal was warned by the following not to return to the Philippines because of his Noli Me Tangere angered the friars. 6 months later, pressured by the Spanish authorities, in order to avoid the prosecution, he left the Manila for Hong Kong. From 1888 to 1890, he shuttled between London and Paris, where he wrote the ethnographic and history-related studies. He also frequently visited Spain, where he met fellow Filipinos such as Marcelo H. del Pilar, Mariano Ponce, Graciano Lopez Haina.
In August, he was submitted to the British Museum where he copied Antonio Morga's massive study of the Philippines Acceso de las Islas Filipinas, which later annotated for publications as a gift for the Filipinos.
The first of 2 novels, Noli Me Tangere, came from the Latin word touch me not. It is 1887 novel by Jose Rizal during the colonization of the Philippines, in order to describe the perceiving of the Spanish Catholic friars and ruling government. Noli Me Tangere revolves around Crisostomo Ibarra, who after a 7-year stay in Europe to study. Specifically, he aims to make education too accessible. His idealism, however, cannot bear truth because of insidious forces. Ibarra learned that his father Don Rafael had been blamed by Padre Damaso, who eventually causes his humiliation and death. He has also under power to seduce the mother of Maria Clara, Ibarra's sweetheart. Ibarra also an enemy who was after of Maria Clara. It was also the cause of death of Ibarra at our groundbreaking ceremony from the school. Things comes ahead when Ibarra is implicated in the field of rising, instigated by Padre Salmo. Janman is imprisoned but is eventually rescued by Elias, who was saved by Ibarra in the past. El Filibusterismo, the second novel by Rizal in 1861 to 1896, the national hero of the Philippines like predecessor, better known as Noli Me Tangere, and it was published in 1891 in Gent.
El Filibusterismo was the sequel of Noli Me Tangere, which Ibarra changed his identity into Simon, the jeweler, and he was befriending the Spanish officials. At the end of the novel, Simon Ibarra finds Padre Florentinos and confesses his entire story to him, and he even hands the priest all his riches before finally he passed away.
Imagine how laughable Rizal is that he actually went overseas to find love. You know what the interesting part of Rizal's love life? Rizal was considered as a national heartthrob with a girlfriend of total of 9. The first love of Jose Rizal is Segunda Katigbak, year 1877. The next on our list is Leonor Valenzuela, year 1878. The next is Leonor Rivera, year 1878 to 1880. Consuelo Ortiga Iri, year 1884. Seiko Yusui, year 1888. Gertrude Becke, year 1888. Suzanne Jacobi, year 1890. Nelly Bustade, year 1891. Josephine Bracken, year 1895 to 1896. Father Pasel accused Rizal of Protestantism by writing the Noli Me Tangere. Rizal said to Father Pastel to respect the religious beliefs of others. His 14 stanza poem in Spanish, hitherto only known by its opening verse, Adios Patria Adorada, which means farewell beloved country, later titled Mi Ultimo Adios, Last Farewell, was hidden in his gas lamp in his prison cell and transferred among his personal belongings to his family after his death. He wrote to his best friend and competent professor, Ferdinand Blumentritt, that tomorrow at 7 I shall be shot, but I am innocent of the crime of rebellion. I am going to die with a tranquil conscience. Not for active rebellion, for Rizal was not actually aligned with the Katipunan of Andres Bonifacio and Emilio Aguinaldo. In those days of revolution, he was one of the leaders of the reform movement of Filipino students in Spain, where he was a prolific contributor to the Spanish newspaper La Solidaridad in Barcelona under changing pen names of Di Masalang, Laong Laan, and May Pag-asa. His writing focused on liberal and progressive ideas of individual rights and freedom, specifically rights for the Filipino people. His two best-known novels were Noli Me Tangere, Touch Me Not in 1887 that criticized the Spanish political governance and the clergy, and El Filibusterismo, The Reign of Greed in 1891 that described the social cancer that colonization wrote. The execution began at exactly 6:30 in the morning with black suit and black hat. Even however what would happen, he still acted as nothing will happen to him. front of Manila Cathedral to Malecon Street, now been called the Bonifacio Drive. Now the participants of the Death March are finally reached the Bagong Bayan, and the hundreds of crowds of Filipino and foreigner was also equal to its closer to a cordon form of Spanish soldier to take down Rizal. And when they arrived in Bagong Bayan, Rizal by this time and talked to the two priests that was accompanied to him, and finally to Josephine. Before the execution, he was being designated the place where he was supposed to stand. Then after that, he asked a final request. However, the request has been denied. Rizal should be shot in the back. And he wanted to see the firing squad to confirm that the squad wasn't a traitor of the country. The commander shouted, "Grego!" or fire, and Rizal slowly turned his back to the firing squad and failed to see and fell down to the ground. And that's all. Firstly, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Regimy Joe Merillana. I'm a BA2 student, and together with my partner,
I'm Rejie Ligtas. This is our documentary video of life and works of Rizal and Jake 9.
under by Niko L.Terano. I hope you enjoy watching. Thank you.
Thank you.